Today we're going to talk about gimbals. As you can see, I have two by Zhiyun, Zhiyun. I've got the Crane M2 on my left hand side. On my right hand side is the Crane M2-S. The M2 is the older version. It's not really a competition today, but we're trying to understand together which one fits your needs the best. If you already own the Crane M2, is it worth upgrading to the M2S? Let's find out after the intro. Thank you for tuning in. I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. I'm sorry, I've been busy, family, work, different things, and life happens. We're gonna talk about these two gimbals and try to compare them. Again, it's not a competition because they're made for different devices. That's what I've been told also and confirmed by the team from Zhiyun. Nowadays, in the specs of the gimbals, the Zhiyun actually is not highlighting the payload that these gimbals can support because they don't want to mislead the actual devices they can hold. So instead of talking about payload, they talk about compatibility, connectivity with different cameras and lenses. Because some cameras have different shapes and maybe the gimbal can actually hold the same payload of a camera, but not the same payload of a different camera which has a different shape. For a full list of the devices that this gimbal can hold, I advise you to go on the Zhiyun website and you will find a complete list of all the gear the gimbals can support. So don't blame me if I'm sharing my opinion and if the gimbal is not supporting your camera, right? Because that happened. So we talk about compatibility and connectivity. Starting from the Crane M2, it can support action cameras like the GoPro Hero 8, 9, 10 and older versions. It can support point and shoot cameras with the lens already in the body of the camera, but it can support smaller mirrorless like the Sony Alpha 6300 family, for example, 6400, 6500 and so on. I reviewed these gimbals individually before, where I'm actually using these gimbals with different devices, and I recommend you to go and check my videos in the description or in the card. The first big difference here is that the Crane M2 can be connected, for example, to a GoPro Hero 8. That was my test back in time, and you could control your GoPro directly from the gimbal and the app. So you can actually activate the record button from the app and from the gimbal, but you can't control bigger cameras from the gimbal, either from the app. And bear in mind, it cannot support heavier cameras like the Sony Alpha 7 family. On the other side, the Crane M2-S was built for bigger mirrorless cameras like the Sony A7 family. On this gimbal, you can actually connect your Sony camera to the gimbal and press rec on the gimbal and record in camera. Something you cannot do on the M2. So that's why I was saying they're built for different devices. On the Crane M2S, you can still mount and balance a GoPro and a smartphone, but you will not be able to control your recording device, GoPro and smartphone, neither from the gimbal or the app. Okay, so you can only control the gimbal from the app, not the actual camera. I talked to Zhiyun again, and these features will not come for this gimbal because it's not made for those devices in premise. So this is a camera-based gimbal. This is an action camera smartphone gimbal. First big difference, keep it in mind. Build and design. They are identical, just a couple of different features, but the body itself is exactly the same. Plasticky, the tripod is the same, all the buttons are placed in the same position and location. The gimbals and the arms are made of aluminum. Again, exactly the same apart from the size of the arms. The ones on the Crane M2S are slightly thicker compared to the M2 because again it's made to support bigger and heavier mirrorless cameras. The screen is the same. There's a screw 1/4 inch screw thread on the side of either gimbals to which you can attach an external microphone or a light. The extra main feature on the Crane M2S is the built-in light. It's a LED light in the front of the gimbal, which can allow you to record in darker situations and environment. It's great for vlogging, maybe interviews as well. Dimensions and weight, again, very, very similar. The M2 weighs 500 grams, the M2S 546 grams. Dimension wise, I couldn't really spot any difference. Probably the M2 is a bit taller, and they measure 26 by 7 centimeters by 6.9 by 13.8, 15 centimeters in terms of width. The question you're gonna ask me, because you do in all my gimbals reviews, can they support a GoPro with the media mode? Yes, both the gimbal can support your media mode. The motors are strong, there's no issues with that. Kits and prices, and we're gonna check what's in the box as well. The Crane M2 comes in one kit only, and that cost 199 British pound. This kit will come with EPP case, which is quite nice and handy. You get the tripod with it, well, instruction manual. You will have a phone holder, like a clamp, a wrist lace to attach the gimbal and to your hand, and you will have a USB to USB-C cable to charge your gimbal. That's the Crane M2. The Crane M2S comes in two different kits. By the way, all the links of the products are in the description tab, so if you purchase the gimbals through my link, I will get a tiny percentage out of the purchase without extra charge on you, of course, and it will help me support my channel. So if you're thinking to buy one, just get it from the link. It would be very appreciated. Let's talk about the Crane M2S. So it comes in two different kits. Kit number one is called Standard. It comes at the price of 259 British pound. And once again, it comes with a very similar EPP case like the Crane M2. Comes with a tripod, the cables to connect the camera to the gimbal, also to charge the gimbal, and it will come with 4 different colored filters for the LED light. There's an upgraded version which is called Combo. It costs 329 British pound. It comes with exactly the same stuff we just talked about, but with an extra carrying bag, which is really, really nice. You will also get a smartphone clamp as with the M2. Next subject is going to be the battery and battery life. On the M2, the charging time is 2 hours and the battery can run for 7 hours. On the Crane M2S, the charging time is 1 hour and 40 minutes, more or less, and the running time is 10.5 hours. So in terms of battery, much better the Crane M2S. And again, keep in mind, this is a stronger tripod. Also, the Crane M2S has an extra feature, which is that you can charge your camera, your recording device, through the gimbal, just attaching a cable to either the tools. Locking system. I find the locking system quite useful, especially for balancing your arms. On the Crane M2, we really don't have a locking system for individual arms. We can only lock all the arms in place like this when we want to carry the device. That's it. So you can close your arms and lock it there. So nothing is spinning, okay? This is just for portability, basically. On the Crane M2S, I think that's the big difference. We have a lock for each arm. So let's say I want to balance my tilt axis, which is that. Once it's balanced, I can click on my lock here on the top and it will stay in place. Same as all the others with the panning, which is again at the back. I can just lock the panning axis, but also I have the roll. There you go. See, that's free now. And then I lock it and I can balance the other axis. Very useful, apart from carrying the gimbal, but also for balancing it. Ease to mount and balance. They're very user-friendly in my opinion. If you don't know how to balance a gimbal in general, once again, I made a video for you. Come on, hit the subscribe button, guys. There's so much content here that can help you out. Also, we have quick release plates on either the gimbals. There you go. That's it. And you slide it in again and you're ready to go. And you want to lock it in place. Same on the M2S. Right there, you actually have an extra lock at the back, but done. So you can leave your camera on top if you want, or if you want to use different gimbals, and then you just slide it in, back in, quick. To attach a GoPro to your gimbal, you need an extra adapter, which is the GoPro mount to a 1/4 inch screw thread. You can find it on Amazon. I try to drop a link down here. In terms of operation, as I mentioned, all the buttons are in the same place. The menu is the same. Trigger button. The only difference is the button here on the left hand side, in my case, which on the Crane M2 can control the zoom, I think, for smartphones. The same button on the Crane M2-S actually is to operate the light and to change the power of the light as well. We have different modes in terms of movements of the gimbal. You have the follow mode, which follows your pan and tilt, the pan follow, which follows only the pan. We have the lock mode, the go mode. I asked to Zhiyun as well, because that's another question you guys ask me a lot. Can we film in portrait, which is vertical mode? My answer is don't do it. Don't film in vertical ever. Television and monitors are made to be watched in horizontal or landscape mode, so don't film in vertical. If you really want to, my advice is to film in 4K and then in post-production, in video editing, crop your 4K footage. So just delete the side part of the footage. Talking about the gimbals, again, I talked to Zhiyun, and these gimbals do not support native portrait mode, which is great, thank you. But on the Crane M2, you can buy an extra plate that can actually mount like this, more or less in this position, to film in vertical, but you need to purchase it extra. I haven't heard anything about the Crane M2. Still, I think you can record in portrait simply by spinning and rotate your camera basically vertically and use the gimbal in horizontal mode. Something like that. So your camera would be here facing forward, and still it's a way to film in vertical mode. You can also use both the gimbals in Sling mode, under Sling, whatever you want to call it, when you put your gimbal upside down. Up. The up is exactly the same, the ZY up. It's very similar. I think it's quite user-friendly as well. You can do time lapses, you can control the movement of your gimbals on either the gimbals actually. You've got some presets as well if you want to be more creative, or if you're starting using gimbals, so it's quite easy there. Now, I took some footage with either the gimbal. I tried to take exactly the same shot for you to spot the difference. We're gonna get out and grab some clips. Plugging in the park, pan mode, follow mode. There's not stabilization in camera right now, so we can actually test the gimbal capabilities. What a day, whoo! That was it. What do you think about the comparison, about the footage? Drop a comment down here. I think the M2-S is slightly smoother, and you can tell the motors are stronger. And I think that's it. That's what I wanted to cover, more or less. It's like an overview. What do I think about the gimbals? Definitely, I recommend the Crane M2 just for the use of smartphones and action cameras. It's great for vlogging. You can attach an extra microphone, an extra light here with to the screw at the side, and simply that's it. If you don't need to do anything else but just vlog and take some B-roll for your YouTube channel, it's great. I would go for the M2-S if you also want to use it for professional work with lighter cameras. Like the commercial we filmed for Zhiyun, that was only filmed on this gimbal and the Sony a7R III, which is quite heavy, with a tiny 24mm lens. It's great because you have already a light, so you can use the screw on the side to attach a lapel microphone, for example, or just a small directional mic. Judging by the footage I recorded quickly today, the Crane M2-S performs a bit better in terms of stabilization, a tiny bit. The bumps you see when I walk are absorbed a bit better, I think, here on this gimbal. And I also recommend the combo package with the backpack because it's very handy. You can use it as a rucksack and it comes with a phone clamp. Otherwise, you need to buy this stuff separately. Of course, if you use it with a smartphone. But still, you can't go wrong for either of them with the GoPro, for example, especially if you keep the stabilization of the camera on as well, which I recommend to do, by the way. Is it also worth upgrading from the M2 to the M2S? Well, that's completely up to you for the same reasons I just mentioned. I hope this helped you out a little bit, and I'll see you in the next video with more gimbals. I've got more gimbals coming, bigger for bigger cameras and smaller for action cameras. So stay tuned, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you shortly.